Hey guys, welcome to my new video. It's been a while since last video. There were a lot of events that happened, so I want to share. About the mentorship program that just gone past. Announce the new one. I'm gonna address the scamming accusations. That was quite interesting to experience. I'm going to talk about the live program, the recorded program, and the free program that is about to come out. So I'm going to address that. Then I'm going to speak a little bit about market making. Essentially, how to trade as a market maker. It's very different to how usually people trade. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Maybe even shoot a separate video explaining this, because I think it's quite important to understand. And I'm going to talk about the trading game. The trading game is basically this little project that is blooming, just gamifying the trading, and it's quite interesting projects. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. Now, firstly, I want to talk about the scamming accusations. The first thing that was said, that I trade somebody else's money and I lost somebody else's money. That's not true. I don't trade anybody else's money, and I will never trade somebody else's money. Then about the guarantee, I was accused of not living up to my 30-day, well, it was meant to be 30-day guarantee. So to address this, first of all the students who joined the program got their refund when they didn't like the program, because I understand when you join the program and you realize what it takes and all this kind of things, and you want to back out. I understand that. And the students who asked for the money back that way, they all got the money back, no questions asked. I totally get it. And it wouldn't be good for me to have a student who's not totally engaged into the program anyway. So it's sort of win-win, I understand. However, in this situation, things were different. Let me explain what happened. So 3 students asked for the money back when it was about 2 weeks until the last lecture. Essentially, almost done with the entire program. Now, and what happened was they likely were following my trade, and at that time I was taking sort of like a high risk trade, but I was following the basic principles. That is why my experience was, putting 2 Bitcoin in, going to 10, 12 Bitcoin, then back to 2 Bitcoin, then back to 9 Bitcoin, back to half a Bitcoin, back to 2 Bitcoin, right? And I'm going to explain, like, you may think, okay, why didn't you take some out? Isn't that the principle? Yes, that is the principle. And I skipped that principle for basically reasoning one thing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, why I would do that. Now, but I didn't recommend that. I was very clear that, if you 5x your account, you take that money out. And I will explain why I didn't take the money out and continue playing with big stakes. Okay. Now, so what happened? These students were following my trading, and they lost. They must have lost a lot, because I'm only trading with a small amount, and like 2 Bitcoin that I put in to show you, dedicated for this program, is just a small tiny fraction of my portfolio. It doesn't affect me emotionally in one way or the other at all. Okay, it's just a game for me, and I was encouraging everybody to pick that sum, what would be the game for them, like $100, if a small fraction of your portfolio, because that's the only thing that's the primary principle. Okay, and the reason we use this principle is, imagine like when you play a video game. Sometimes, if you play everything you got one life. You lose, it's game over, right? So what you want to have is you want to be a little bit more strategic about it and have many lives, infinite lives essentially, right? So you play with a little bit at a time, and if you're good, it's easy to 5x 10x, okay? So basically you bet on yourself this way, that hey, I'm betting on my skill, not the brute force, but the skill. So you trade a little bit, okay? And that a little bit turns into, a lot, and then you can decide whether you want to pull that out or whether you continue playing. And I'm going to talk about that as well. The point is that these students traded likely everything they got, and they lost significantly due to that trade. And I understand losing. I totally get it. I understand the pain behind it and all that. However, the way it was posed to me is that the reason is because the principles that I teach are worthless and they're rubbish. And that is why they are asking for the money back. Whereas just a month ago, they were enjoying making all that equity and, pretty much happy discovering these principles, okay? So, in the essence, what I'm trying to communicate here is that the greed factor took over, okay? I had a great day after I got that my position got liquidated. I had an amazing day. Everything's fine, I haven't lost anything. And people say that like I lost a lot of money. I haven't lost anything. I put the Bitcoin in. I played with it. I had a tremendous experience. I had a lot of fun, right? That's another thing when we trade the way we trade. There's no anxiety. There's no fear. It's just fun, okay? So that's the situation there. Now, when the greed takes over and you try to, instead of practicing, which was meant to be the point, they start playing big stakes. They thought that they're big boys now. And of course, they wouldn't tell me that. So I didn't know how much they're trading. Nevertheless, the point was that they now accusing the not saying like, hey, I don't like the program, but just saying simply that everything that I teach is rubbish, and that is why they're asking for the money back, because they experienced that one bad trade. Now you can clearly see the mistakes that they were made. Now I understand the experience when you're losing like that, but instead of coming up to me and saying, you know what, Kez, I messed up. I followed your trade. I should have traded with the, small amount, but I wasn't trading with small amount because I was trying to make money, while learning. Fine. Look, it's great to come clean like this. And one student did come clean like that. But instead, I was being attacked and the entire program was being criticized as worthless. Now, and then pointing to my promise that I'm going to give the money back if you don't like the program. Now, of course, I'm not a corporation, and everything I didn't have like a legal agreement. I mean, now things are going to be different. Of course, I learned from my mistakes. So then you could easily interpret and say like, well, it's any time, right? Like say 3 months after the program, I decide to get my money back, and I get my money back like that, That was not what was communicated by me. Because sure, you can go to the restaurant, you can order a steak, eat 90% of the steak, and then say, hey, I don't like the steak, or like something's wrong with the steak. And yes, sure, they will need to give the money back because they follow the protocol, even though all the people around will understand what is really going on, right? Somebody's just being opportunistic here. So, yeah, 1 second. And you may say, okay, well, why didn't you give them money anyway? I mean, like, why didn't you give them money anyway? Well, a person who came up to me and says, hey, I messed up, because lost a lot of money, said, I don't know what I'm going to do now and all this kind of say, okay, clearly lesson learned. Now, I asked him how much does he get paid from 9 to 5. And he gave me the number and I said, hey, I'm going to give you that much and you just help me out, a few hours a day. So essentially, I offered him a job. Because, I understand the situation and I see if the person has a lot of potential, but it just made a mistake, I'm going to help out. That's what I was there for. And, but if the people come with me and attack the program and criticize the program and the principles that I not only teach, but I live by, the very principle that I was teaching, you were not listening. I was telling you to trade $100 or a small fraction of your portfolio. That was not the case. So the broken principle. So you were not even listening to the principles that were being taught. And that's okay if you weren't, but then you gotta, take the responsibility. You can't keep addressing the responsibility. At some point, you gotta grow up and be a man. Be a man. Take your own responsibility. Because I think the consequences of not taking your own responsibility with the things that you do doesn't usually end up well, So that's basically the principles. One of the principles that I taught from the very beginning of the program is that equal value of exchange. I did my work. I shot, some of the videos were pretty crazy, 18 hours long. Okay, I put a lot of time, a lot of work in it, and these are the students that I actually spend a lot of time working on individually. Okay, so when obviously all this is being said that is worthless is kind of upsetting, to be honest. And maybe I should have reacted differently. Maybe I should have be sort of like more understanding and so on. But I live by the same principles, and I'm not going to break principles. I'm not going to betray those principles to pacify somebody's worldview. That even though, especially when it's not healthy. Okay, so just for you to know, if you join the live program and if you ask for the money back at the end of the program, after you engage with me and worked with me individually, use my time and all that, and you ask for the money back, that's not going to be granted. Okay? And it's a given that it was never meant that way. And you can use the rhetoric, of course. You can use the legal nonsense and say like, okay, well, you said it this, and so I can extrapolate it at any time. Yes, sure, you can do that. Sort of rationalization, but come on, everybody understands what's really going on. Okay, and you can just be honest. You can say, hey, I messed up. Look, what do we do? And I will help you out. And that's it. And there's no reason to criticize the principles. Principles got nothing to do with it. Now, students who also follow that trade, first of all, a lot of students, well, the rest of the students, some of them follow the trade, and they obviously incurred significant losses on their account. They got everything back and then some. Okay, because it's not a game over if you follow the principles, even in those extreme situations. I'm going to explain what was I doing, and I totally understand that type of trade I shouldn't have been sharing, and I'm going to be much more responsible in the future myself. So yeah, that's essentially it. That's the guarantee that I wanted to address. And yeah, and that it wasn't game over. Even then, it wasn't game over. You don't have to give up. You can keep going. Even things that don't seem that way, you can keep going. And but but I understand the situation. Okay, I think that's enough with the guarantee. Then there was some other very interesting accusations that I sniff cocaine. I don't sniff cocaine. And speaking of drugs like that, I have a very clear principle to live by. I don't touch any drug that hijacks dopaminergic reward system. The reason being is that if I do take those drugs, and what these drugs usually do is they give the sense of achievement and the reward sensation, and well-being and all that without me doing anything, right? I've not done anything, I haven't created anything, and I get to have it like instantaneously. So that hijacks the reward system. Now you don't need to do anything except seek that thing that press the button, right? Like these rats in the experiments. You press the button, you get the pleasure, and that's all the rat wants to do is keep pressing that button and figure out life, right? So I don't touch these things because I prefer to create something and then get that reward, like to have that type of balance. It's like, okay, I've created something and I got the reward, everything's at the balance and nothing is hijacked. So yeah, I don't recommend any kind of drugs that act on that pretty much a button, pleasure hormone button, that you all you gotta do is just keep on pressing, because the outcome of that is very clear. So I'm not touching that. But what I actually, like, I don't want to recommend because everybody's different, but I'm saying that if I were to use drugs, like I don't even want to call them drugs because, it's just a plant, I would go with something more natural like cannabis. And in cannabis, again, I'm not recommending, like, you need to do your own due diligence about it and see how that, if it's suitable for you and all these kind of things. But it doesn't really work that way. It just removes inhibitions. And I think that's something is good. It's it doesn't directly causes you displeasure. It removes the inhibitions, and if you're having fun with your friends, you're going to be relaxed. You're going to be more of yourself, right? Without any kind of these inhibitions floating around. So that type of quote unquote drug is different. That's something that I personally use, but when I do, I try to, be very aware. Okay, am I pacifying any kind of negative emotional state that I'm in? And if the answer is yes, then I don't use it. Because if I have some sort of sadness or something to process, I don't use the drug to fix that. I process it naturally through the meditation and all these kind of things. And then if I feel great and if somebody's coming around, I can, smoke a little bit of weed and talk life with you, Everything's good. But yeah, no. The answer is no, not true. I was being accused of using UOG name in deleting videos. Well, when I started this program, it was a lot to do with the fact that I was encouraged by UOG, okay? Like, he was the one who was telling me, hey, go out there and sell yourself more. I said, like, no, it's okay. I'm okay. I have like 10 students. I'm good. And he was pushing me and saying like, hey, no, you got to go and do it. You got to go out there and so on and so on. So he was encouraging me a lot, okay? I don't think it's a problem for me to mention his name. I really didn't think it's a problem, because why would I be afraid of that when somebody's encouraging you to do that? Now, but things kind of changed after some time. So I don't know what happened. Like, really, it was attributed about this guarantee issue, but it was not the guarantee issue itself. There was something, deeper. And a lot of people don't realize that. Again, I don't want to quote unquote expose anything or anyone. I have quite a few ideas about that I can share later. But it's not a secret that he appeared on the videos with the half of his face frozen, and that's obviously due to the stroke that he had. And after that, again, I'm not attributing that to that specific event, but it kind of coincides with the change in the behavior as well. So, and that is quite often a sign. I was if any kind of, I mean, out of all the people, I was surprised the most with what happened. But that's okay. I deleted these videos because I thought he no longer wants to be associated, and I don't want to use anybody else's name, piggyback on somebody else if they don't want to. Like, why should I do it? So I was deleting these videos, and I understand. Like, look, if you no longer want me to use your name, I'm not gonna use your name. Everything's fine. That's not a problem there. Also, I was being criticized about denouncing a tone video about Venzen. Yeah, I was, and let me explain why. A lot of YouTubers don't realize, especially when you have like 100,000 subscribers, 10,000 subscribers, or even 1,000 subscribers, that you have followers, and that's not to use as a weapon or like some sort of psychological violence, okay? That is not to use for that, because sure, you can definitely do that, and maybe that wasn't your intention. But if you create any kind of video exposed or something, and with the intention on focusing on that person and rallying all these other people to project that negativity onto that one person, that's it's a slippery slope. I don't believe that that's the way things need to be handled. I think that was internal matter, and to project all that and rally all these people, and it's very, very psychologically damaging. It's more damaging than physical violence. So if you pride yourself that, like, hey, I'm not a physically violent person, and at the same time you shoot something that is psychologically violent, it's not very congruent. And there's a little moment in there where you need to really ask yourself, okay, what happened? Why is this person now needs to experience all this pain when he was just trying to help people? First of all, it doesn't seem kind of fair, right? And then you really look into it and you realize, okay, there was a person who literally invested into, I'm not taking anybody's money, but somebody invested into him as a trader, literally, right? Because they wanted to make more money. So the first point is that they had no skill, nothing. The only thing that they did was just made a decision that I'm going to be investing with this person. Now, if you're a responsible investor, anywhere you invest, it's your call. Nobody else's fault. It's always your call. You're a grown-up person. If you invest in something that's risky, you made the call. Now, invest in something that is risky, lose the money, and then blame everybody else, that's not responsible. And also, having so much pain caused that one person was just trying to help but wasn't able to is, I don't think it's fair. I think, first of all, you shouldn't do it if I were to invest into somebody, a person, and I end up losing it, I made a call. I was the one who made the call. I'm responsible. And that's the thing. It's like when you're not allowing that responsibility of your own life and keep pointing fingers at others, that turns into psychological violence. And let me tell you something. Whenever you public shame somebody, they did the research on that, it's the same sensation to another person as if you were just pricking their skin with the needle, And the more people are who join that, the pain is multiplies by many, many more times. So it's not easy. It's not difficult to see what happens and what kind of damage you can do to one person with your 100,000 subscribers, what kind of pain you can create. And this is all scientifically proven and so on. People don't talk about this because they think, it's weak or whatever, but that's what's really going on behind the scenes. And of course, people who do create these videos, there's a law of the universe. Everything comes back like a boomerang. And They, of course, they don't attribute their doing. They don't see that everything is interconnected. But yeah, it doesn't come back in a nice way, and it's all because of not accepting responsibility of your own responsibility, you know. So yeah, I will always denounce any kind of video that is dedicated to attack one single individual, or a couple individuals, doesn't matter, you know. You have no idea what kind of toll does it take on the health, you know. Now, I want to touch a little bit on, you know what, I'm not going to expand on this. I think you can take 2 + 2, get 4, and realize, and all the people who suffered a lot, and you know, some of them, you know, maybe even passed away. You know, you can do your own thinking in that sense. Okay, I understand that I'm talking about kind of emotional and deep things, but next time you're joining somebody who's slandering and causing the rhetoric and just clearly bent over to cause the pain, ask why, you know, and them using this as a blackmail to control my behavior, you see, and forcing me to behave in the way that they think that is true way to behave, you know. And I'm not going to betray my principles. You can blackmail me, threaten me all you want. I don't negotiate with terrorists. And I don't negotiate with the ugly dolls either. So yeah, that's not the way to handle it. The best way to handle it was come and talk to me, tell me the truth, and be honest about what really happened. And they can work things out like two adults. If you come at me swinging, don't expect a good reaction from me, you know? I mean, I'm not going to attack you back because I'm not the type of person, but or at least I'm not trying to attack back. Don't think that I don't have urges to attack back, but I just process it in my own way. So, yeah, that's that. Some people are saying that I'm acting arrogant. Well, I don't know. That's how you depends how you describe arrogance. I mean, I don't go out there and say that like I'm better than everybody else. I'm very honest about my level of skill. You know, I'm saying that, hey, I'm not. I don't consider myself a black belt. I'm more like a brown belt. But guess what? I mean, in this game, I'm still a brown belt. You know, and I still got something to teach. And I got and I like teaching. So that's that. But sometimes, you know, arrogance is another thing. Is that, you know, what is confidence? What is arrogance? If I'm happy with my success and I'm sharing that, is that arrogant? To you, it may seem arrogant because like, okay, why is he so happy with success? Why is he enjoying? Like some people say like, hey, you lost 9 Bitcoin and then you had fun on the podcast. Like, what's up with that? That's because it didn't affect me emotionally one bit. I was affected emotionally more by the video that was posted than the trade that I lost. Because I didn't lose anything in the end anyway. People say that I lost a lot of money. I didn't lose anything. I put 2 Bitcoin in, played around, and now I'm back to 2. And I still got my principles under my belt, and the equity is growing. And the important question to ask is how my students are doing. And my students are doing very well, better than me. Some of them, they even used they took the HMY principles and pretty much ran with it. They created their own system that allows them to day trade. And so because they say like, hey, I don't have patience for that. I want to trade small time frames. So they adapted the system, created systems, and it was unbelievable. It's a lot of times they were having a statistically improbable success. Like, for example, 12 hits in a row, all winners, you know. That's rare, okay? But we're all tools put together, they were able to accomplish that. So there, and you can speak to them, and if you get to speak to them and ask them of what's the program all about, and how much value they got it from it. Okay, so I think that's it in terms of these accusations. Look, I'm sorry, these students that incurred a lot of losses. I'm sorry, and that it happened. I am willing to help. That's what I do here. I'm not gonna ask. I'm not the type of guy that I'm gonna take your money and get nothing back in return. But if you get something that is truly valuable, but you just don't see it, that is, or maybe perhaps you don't even follow it. Okay, there's only so much that I can do. So yeah, it depends how you decide to frame this yourself. All right, so let's go into the actual program. So what is going on with the mentorship that is going to come out? Well, I created 3 different groups of people, three groups of memberships. Basically, one is free membership, and second is recorded membership, and the third is live membership. And live membership, you essentially going to be joining a live program, which is probably going to start April 11th, something like that. And we're going to start with the retreat. I'll explain why in a second. And then, if you want to buy a recorded program, the program that was recorded, the first one and the second one, and just go through it yourself on your own pace, you can do that. The program is going to be delivered to you in a dripper style, meaning that every week you're going to have the material that you need to go through, the books that you need to read, and all sorts of things that you need to go through that week. You're not going to get the second week's material until you finish the first one, because I don't want to have this sort of overwhelm that sometimes people feel is like, oh my God, so much, what's going on. So it's going to be in the dripper type of fashion. You're going to receive that material and you go through. And once you're going to go through, you're going to pretty much tick the box that, okay, I completed this. And the system will recognize that you have completed this. Then if you understand the program or not, depending on which it is, you're going to press I got the program or I need help. If you click on need help, you'll be able to hire the MTA coaches that can help you through and guide you through the whole program. A free member, you'll be able to see the highlights. So you're going to see sort of, some of them. We're going to share some of the nuggets from the program that will help you to trade as it is, because the essence of the program is you being able to translate what you're learning into your own behavior. That's very, very important. I mean, that's why it takes so long, right? Because it takes time to rewire your brain. I'm going to speak about that in a second. Okay, so why don't I actually go to the website and talk about that? Here. So about the program, a little bit about the program. We have 3 cornerstones of mixed trading hours. That's as I call it. It splits into 3 groups: the universe principles, the execution principles, and the behavioral principles. The universe principles is a paradigm. It's a worldview that market is natural. Okay, that's the first premise that you take. Like, okay, do I look at the market in a natural way? If you ask this question, and if you make decisions based on how the nature works, and you study nature and realize how the crazy things that happen in nature the constants that are happening. For example, there's golden ratios and divine sacred numbers and all these things. These are the constants that always happen in nature, and it always happens in the market. Okay, so once you make that shift, then it really needs to be a paradigm shift. You no longer look at the market in a technical way. That's the first one and then it's funny results happen when you do that. Okay, so the program teaches you the art of sacred geometry pattern recognition, is essentially, and you start looking at the patterns that are not logical patterns. They're not like perfect patterns, like triangles or this or that. These are much more complex and beautiful patterns that exist that you can't see it with your own logical eye. Like you can see it with the creative mind, with the creative part of you, with the one that is more in touch with the intuition, and that's what I teach. I teach how to look in the market in a natural way, and then what exists in the universe that is always constant, and what exists in the market is always constant. That is your principle that put things in your favor, right? That puts in your favor, because other than that, it's gambling. If you look at the market in a natural way, if you see how the market behaves, how in nature, and you really stick to the constants of what's happening in nature, you already have the upper hand. Like you already maybe in 10% of the traders. Now, to actually apply that into make a decision that way, it's a different thing. Like I could explain to you and say, okay, here's how things works. Here's what it means a nested fractal. Here's what it means, self-similarity and all these kind of principles. I can teach you that. But whether you're going to be making decisions based on that, that's another question. And then that's why it's important to understand the behavioral principles as well, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Okay, so execution principles. Execution principles, in the essence, is how to, like, it's how do you execute the trade, and that includes all sorts of spreads that we use, like those are the rules in the execution that you try not to break. And for example, like one of them, be a market maker. You gotta be a market maker. Now, to be a market maker, you need to be you need to have such behavioral tools under your belt, like patience, balance between greed and generosity, right? This is something that's very interesting. This is, like, I call it, this is a new principle that I'm investigating, and I'm calling it a G-force. It's, I know, maybe a little bit cheesy, but I don't know, I kind of resonate with the G-force. So anyway, 3 forces: greed, generosity, and what's the last one? Gratification. There you go. Gratification. If you're instant gratification driven, no go. But if you're, how to say, if you get too greedy, right? And if you say, like, what I'm trying to say is that there needs to have a balance, and it's a behavioral balance that you can accomplish. You can really feel, it's like, okay, am I greedy now, or am I too generous? And like, this is the inner compass that pretty much guides the way you trade. That's pretty much the skill of what converts the ocean, the market, into something like equity. Okay, that's the principle, and you can't break it. I mean, I experienced that very well myself. It's, yes, I didn't want to believe it that is some sort of like a constant principle, but that's how it works. And if you always follow those principles, it's gonna treat you very, very well. So as you can see, everything depends. The trading is a little bit like a game, and it's it's pretty much the emotional maturity simulator almost, because once you know how to trade execution wise, right? How to be a market maker. I'm going to talk about that. Once you know all the universe principles, and we don't apply anything that is not natural in the market. And by the way, you'll see that eventually technical traders, they will gradually go into that more natural way of trading. You'll see that, I mean, I don't know how many people are going to make that switch, but I see some people are realizing that things are a little bit more natural than technical, and they slowly kind of get to trust that a little more, because it's very difficult to move from the world that you always know, like that logic, into the world of intuition. It's uncomfortable. But that's where everything is, or at least a lot of. Okay, so behavioral principles. They're the last one, but does not mean that everything seals the deal with the behavior, right? Because at the end of the day, does that translate into my behavior? Because you're the one's going to make a call, right? And if your behavior in a such way, I mean, it's okay. That's another thing that I want to say. It's like, it's okay to be greedy sometimes, and it's okay, but you got to find the balance. It's the balance that counts. Okay. The middle way, Zen Buddhists talk about that all the time. The middle way, and the middle way is the best way. This is how makes you relaxed with trading. You completely relax with trading when you trade that way. It's, for some of you, may be difficult to understand how can you be relaxed and not really puzzled by any kind of movement. And actually, if you position yourself in that way, you will not care which way the market goes. Okay, and it's a good place to be. Very good place to be. And if you follow these principles, you will find these places. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it in the essence of what it's about. So I'm taking all these 3 different groups of principles, and I'm teaching all of them into. And by the way, this program is not something to take lightly. I mean, this will change you, okay? And some people are not comfortable with changing. That's why I don't believe that. I keep saying that, but I mean, I can repeat it, that I don't believe that the good trader is the one that knows how to trade. Is the one that pretty much, it's not about what you know, it's who you are. That's what's going to determine, and it's one thing is to resist, not to succumb to your temptations as a human being. That's the one thing. And another thing is not to even have them at all, and know that the middle way is that way that you need to be steering at, and you become attracted to that balanced way. Okay, so if you get in the trade and you to X your account, and then you can see the market keeps going, but you did get a lot out of it. You say, oh man, I should have stayed in. No, you shouldn't have. You executed correctly. You see, you execute everything correctly because you 2x your account. It doesn't matter what happened after. When your thinking is that, oh, if I just stayed in, it would have been, no, you won. It's all good. You won. And there's no regrets. You executed the balance between the greed and generosity. I mean, when you're too generous with the market, then that's another thing. And the way we trade, you'll see what I mean by, generous, and how much you want to give back to the market and how much you want to keep, and so on, so on. You are in control of that as well. And yeah. All right. Yeah, you can read a little bit about the philosophy, essentially what I just explained. So the recorded and the live, there's going to be a different type of content that you receive. The introduction to MT principles course is, I'm going to shoot a small course where it's going to be free, and I'm going to teach about the principles, and that's going to be free. So if you join the free membership, that's going to be included in that. Top trading tips included in the free membership as well. You will receive these short videos with tips, and so kind of encourage you to go on board with the way we look at the market, right? And if you decide you want to go straight in and through entire transformation of yourself, then you can join these mentorships. But like I said, don't take these lightly. This is not what you expect. It requires a lot of internal changes, and yeah, if you're not ready for that, there is no need to push yourself. Yes, so this the BitMEX trading basics is included in the recorded and live. Then live BitMEX master trader mirror account practicing purposes. There's another thing that is part of the program where you're able to follow a top trader, and for the practicing purposes. Okay, if you are not in that spot where you can see the market, where you can make decisions in the market that follow the nature, that follow the intuition and these kind of things, if you're not in that type of space yourself, then you can follow somebody who has experience in that. Now, but just practicing purposes, not to, be too greedy and think that it's for the purpose of making money. Okay, no, you need to pick these trades yourself, and you need to be able to pick these trades yourself at the end of the program without anybody's help. So this is just for the practice purposes. Weekly lectures. We're gonna have like 4 or 5 hour weekly lectures, video audio podcast. For sometimes the lectures are really long, but you don't really need to watch them. You can listen to as a podcast. And you need to watch obviously the essence of it when I'm actually demonstrating say fractals or anything that is important visually. We're gonna have a fractal image library in the fractal gallery, where we where we share different patterns, the way we see the market. Okay, very unusual. You'll see what I mean. It's very unusual. It's very different. Unusual in the sense that it's not technical. Then exercises, trading and behavioral program. I'm giving all the exercises that you need. And you can consult me if you book a live program. You essentially can consult me. We can work on one-to-one basis if you're stuck somewhere. I spend a lot of time. I like doing that, but like I said, this is going to be my last program that I'm going to be doing live, and after that it's only going to be recorded, available. Reason being is because I have all the other projects that I need to move on to, and this is just going to be my for the lack of a better word, my legacy in trading. I just want to share what I learned, what worked for me, and what keeps me going. But I'm not going to stop trading. I don't think I'm ever going to stop trading, because the way I see trading the market is a compass of my own behavior, right? Like, it really reflects me as a human being. So if I'm doing well in the market, then I must be making some good decisions overall, not just the market. And based, like, even the worst case scenarios where I took a really risky trades, I mean, oh my God, like, I was going crazy at some point, because it's easy for it to kind of get away from you, right? Because when you're winning, it kind of gets to your head at some point, and you want to push the limit, right? And that's what I was doing. I was pushing the limit, and of course I learned a lot from doing that. Okay, like, I didn't have to do it. People were telling me that. They say, like, hey, like, you already have 10 Bitcoins, take that money out, start from 2. I said, like, no. I mean, yes, I thought about taking the money out, I thought that, you know what, I think it would be better if I keep the money in there, um, and just keep playing sort of big stakes, because I wanted to demonstrate, right? That was my idea. But again, I sort of did not follow the principles, and I went a little bit more from my ego, right? Trying to prove the point, and that's dangerous. When you get in that type of game, then you're losing the being in tune with the market, because it's nothing to do with ego, right? You start seeing, you start not seeing things that you saw before, and there are all these signs around you, right? But you don't see it, and then you look back and you realize, oh my, what was I doing? Okay, and that's very important. That's the principle that, this one was cemented into me right now. Okay, like I'm not doubting this principle, where this behavioral principle where you trade based on how euphoric you feel, right? For example, if you feel euphoric, the more euphoric you feel, the lower the stakes you drop. Okay, the more bored you feel, you can up the stakes. And by the way, speaking of this, I have this idea of how to gamify trading, and one of this is going to be a principle that the game itself is not going to allow you to make mistakes, right? So I'll talk about that in a second. So for the recorded people, I already said, if you want to buy the recorded, you can, and then you can hire a coach separately, for and they will help you out to go to the program, or you can just get the material and study yourself. Okay, and if you listen to these to what is being taught there, and you actually apply those things, and if you're a good self-learner, then it should be enough for you, right? But not everybody is. Some people need help, and these people will get help. Yeah, we're going to be reviewing the principles that we learn a lot. Questions, if you have any kind of questions, if a lot of people asking the same kind of question, I shoot a video throughout the week, and people get to have their questions answered. Yeah, at the beginning we did the homework exercises with performance reviews every week. This is just like to drill until it becomes a kind of second nature. It's very important at the beginning to get used to it, because you'll feel naked at first, right? It's like, oh my God, this seems like so dangerous and doesn't feel comfortable. But when you get comfortable and you realize, oh, I got the nature behind my back, I just need to follow the principles and I can relax, all the card indicators are free, part of the program. I just mentioned the homework, performance reviews, collection of you get the collection of trading books, and you get a certain books that you need to read that week, and there's another thing that you gotta finish. Once you finish the book, then you can continue on to a different material. It's just why you should join the program. Well, these are the benefits that usually reported by the students. It increased enjoyment through gamification of trading. So you look at it as a game, so all the anxiety, everything's kind of going away. Unlocking the powers of intuition for sacred pattern recognition. That's another thing, is how you're unlocking that artistic part of you, because trading is an art, it's not a science. Okay, so you need to be unlocking these. We do all sorts of things to improve that. Like we play instruments, paint, everything that sort of lifts our creativity. We do, and it's like, playing an instrument. How is that anything to do with being successful in trading? So much, It's market is it's in a lot of ways it's a little bit like a melody, and so there, the important factor that first of all you need to calm down, relax, and be in meditative state no matter what's going on around you. You see, and these principles do help you to relax. And I also teach the principles that that a teach the exercises that help you to relax, right? Like, because we have this, every time you look at the market, before we look at the market, we do a visual meditation, okay? There are certain mandible fractals that are running. We listen to binaural beats, I believe it's called. We do a visual meditation. Once we go through that, we're in a different state of mind. Then we'll look at the market. And the things you see then is not the things that you saw before. So that's what I do, and that's what I teach everybody to do. Anyway. Elimination of traders' anxiety through elimination of technical paradigm. Yes, that's very important. If you just that alone, if you don't look at the market in technical way anymore, you chill out. You know, it happens. You become a bit of more like it's trading becomes like sailing. You know, you let the wind take you where it needs to go. Flow state experience when you tune with the market. That's very interesting. A lot of people reported that they experienced that, because if you don't have an experience, it's difficult to describe. And people who began the program, they were, they saw others kind of experience that when they're so in tune with the market that they're just hitting statistically improbable hits. And it's like, no way, how is that happening? And we experienced that. And everybody who finished the program realized the spooky moments when somebody's so in tune with the market that it just freaks everybody out. And it's not, well, I guess it's a little bit like magic, right? Because it's very, very improbable events that take place. But when you get in tune with the market in that manner, it's something else is going on over there, right? It's something else. And we look for these flow states. You can't force them either, but we look for these flow states. And when you start feeling the market just starts dancing with you and it's treating you very nicely, Yeah. And actually, in reverse is true. For example, if you go and trade with anger, if, let's say, you are not having a good time anywhere else in life, and then you go into the market and say, like, no, maybe market's gonna help me out. But if you are in the state of anger, or you're not aligned in yourself, the market's not gonna treat you nice. Okay, like, you need to be nice and clean, and then you can approach the market. And you process all that, and that's why I stopped trading after that video was made, and I processed things through first. And I didn't need to trade. I didn't need to prove anything. I wanted to let go of all these kind of things that just nothing to do with what I'm trying to accomplish. And it helped. Now I got back in trading. I had some good trades. Things are picking up, and students followed the trades and they had some success as well, and things are going well. Yeah, increased calm and relaxation. That is, of course, significant reduction of time required to make trading decisions and execution. Yeah, so a lot of students say that they take like 10% of their time that they used to use to make the trading calls, trading execution as well. It's because we remove everything that is nothing to do with results. We remove all that. Like, for example, following technical analysis or following anybody else. Like, you should. That's another thing. If you're following somebody and you think that that's what's going to bring you consistent results, no. You're very far from the truth. You should supposed to not follow anybody. It's not, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be follow. Like, that's for the practice purposes, you can follow somebody until you get it. Once you get it, once you really live the principles, you don't need anybody. And once you see these principles, they're so easy that they're like, And even the moments where I had my liquidation happen, those are the moments to be liquidated at. You see? That was like exactly in that point that eye of the fish, as we call it, they're sitting expecting, to things to go in one direction or the other, because it was turn of the market trade. I knew what it is. I placed it. I bet it. I put most of it on red. And it didn't work my way, right? But in the end, everything's fine. Like I said, things are picking back up. Everything's okay. So yeah. Independence from external advice. Comfort with losing trades through trust in gaming principles. Yeah, this one is quite peculiar as well. When you have losing trades, you have no problems cutting them off, because you trust into, you have that trust into this principle because you saw them in the nature, you saw them everywhere. They're constant. They're never changing, and they're always there to take care of you. So when things are not working out in your favor, that, okay, that was the time for me to give a little bit back. And a lot of times when we trade, the moments where we proven to be wrong on the trade, right, allows us to be still right by flipping our position, because we know the points, the key points, that's what we call them, like a key points, key fisheye, right? Key fractals. You go on the key fractal, and that one decides what's going to happen after, right? From that fractal. And if you have the eye of an artist, you get to see these fractals and you say, okay, this is the key fractal. Whichever way it goes, that way the fractal grows. And yes, I use the word grow because the fractal is growing. And as the fractal is growing, you're just trying to understand what's something that doesn't never change, right? And you trade that. And you trade that in sort of very gentle, smooth way with your spreads and all these kind of things, right? A good metaphor that you may want to try on is, for example, when a tree is growing, right? As a scientist looking at the tree, could you tell me exactly how that tree is going to grow? Probably not. But what can you tell me? You can tell me when a branch is sprouting out. You can tell me what is this branch ratio is going to be in relation to other branches and perhaps the main stalk. That information you can tell me. And as it's growing, as you're getting more and more information, you get to see that, okay, that's going to be growing this much and it's going to be at that exact ratio, and you will be right. But not until you see that branch sprouting. Okay? Because there's no way you can predict exactly how the tree is going to grow. But as it's growing, you get some understanding because you know how trees grow and what kind of ratios it is. It doesn't matter what tree does, by the way. The ratios are going to be there anyway. And actually, you knowing what kind of tree it is, that gives you even better advantage, right? So that you not only know that how the nature works and how fractals work, then you recognize the tree. Same thing in the market. You recognize some fractals like, I got this one. I know this fractal. You're still sticking with your natural principles anyway, but you kind of recognize what kind of tree is growing. So that's kind of give you the upper hand. And that's how you really do it, So there. All right, so I think that's it. In the next video, I'm gonna talk a little bit of how to be a market maker. Then the trading game is going to be available for all the paid members. The trading game is going to be doesn't have a structure yet, but it's probably going to be a subscription based where you will be able to use the platform to trade and in a gaming way. Yeah, I don't want to speak too much about that until it's out, but it's very, very exciting project that we're working on. Yeah. right. So I'll see you in the next one. Take care.